the idea that when people, yourselves included, are much more motivated by not losing something that you already have than gaining something that you don't have yet. So the classic psychology example is that you're far more motivated to not lose $1,000 or 1,000 euros or 1,000 yen than to gain 1,000 euros, dollars or yen, right? You're more motivated to not lose something you've already earned than gain something that you haven't yet earned. So this is in the context of picking up chicks. A girl, when you approach her, a girl is far more motivated in her own mind to not lose existing relationships or existing guys or guys she has a connection with, far more motivated by not losing that or fucking that up compared to her being motivated to gain you something that she doesn't yet have. Think about that. So when you're approaching her, you need to consider that you're really nothing to her at all. But of course your goal is you want to become something to her. When it comes to picking up girls, your general mindset, the socially conditioned mindset, the game conditioned mindset is that you simply want to get in there, attract the girl to the point of seduction, drive her crazy, make her want to go home with you, and you fuck her within 3 or 4 hours. And that's really ridiculous actually, okay? What you want to do is you want to set up a situation where you are categorized as something that she doesn't want to lose, not something that she may or may not gain, okay? So we're thinking not about attraction. It's like a fucking war in here, honestly. We got bar fights, ambulances, police cars, classic. You want to get yourself into that situation where you're important in her life or relevant in her life, or almost like becoming apparent in her life and building up familiarity and rapport and connection over a reasonable amount of time rather than thinking about attraction. Think about the difference here for you. There's extreme pressure if you're trying to make a connection with a chick coming at her from the angle as something that she hasn't yet got, something that she has nothing to do with. But if you can then make the shift to come at her, to try to get into her life as something that's relevant in her life, that she's familiar with in her life, and then she doesn't want to lose, then that's going to work a lot better, okay? So what that means when you're going out and cold approaching girls is that you're making the shift from running around and doing 1,000 approaches in a weekend, trying to spark attraction and get lucky, to choosing 1 or 2 or 5 girls and consistently being in contact with them. And we've been using Instagram and Snapchat a lot to do that on my 4-week natural programs, which you can see at www.4weeknatural.com. So here's how it looks. Here's the game plan, and here's what makes it very easy. Instead of playing an approach rejection type of game, you actually want to come across a lot more friendly, but showing girls that you meet that you could be sexual or physical or aggressive or argumentative, those kind of masculine traits, to balance out your positivity. More World War III outside. Crazy. To balance out with your positivity. So, you might meet somebody at a party, you might meet a girl, you might meet her friends, but what I'm asking you to do, and what works extremely well for our students, is by kind of envisioning a 2-week game plan or a 1-week game plan that involves, lighthearted banter over text, lighthearted bullshit back and forth over Snapchat, and keeping your Instagram prevalent in her mind as well. So, keeping active with your social media, and in many cases, you don't need to have your Snapchats and your Instagrams directed at that chick, but she'll be included in the audience, and all of a sudden, over the course of a week or 10 days or 14 days, you're gonna become prevalent in that chick's life. Not only are you gonna be, on day one, you're gonna be like the new guy who she has no idea who you are, you're a dime a dozen, you don't stand out, you're equally as good and average and attractive as every other guy, but then when you're bantering over text, sending out Snapchats, some directly to her and some as though you're sending to your entire Snapchat list, and your Instagram, things that may be relevant to her or maybe relevant to everybody, then all of a sudden, all of a sudden she's going to be thinking like, who the fuck is this guy? I'm learning a lot about him and he's kind of interesting. What you want to then do as well is combine making yourself known in her life with what we call soft invitations. Soft invitations versus hard invitations. When you start proposing things like soft invitations, or for example, what that would look like when you're communicating with a girl who you've met, who you've got her phone number and her Snapchat, is you might message her and send her a photo of a bar that you're at, send her a photo and say, hey, do you know this place? So you're telling her, you're letting her know where you are and what you're doing, but you're not actually inviting her to go there. And if you put out 5 or 6 soft invitations over the course of 7 to 10 days, you're going to make it known that you're available, but you're not needy to meet up with her. And by doing that, you're not risking rejection, and you're also kind of, being friendly without desperate or asking her to accept or reject you straight away. So you build on the soft invitations. At the same time, live your life, share your social media, and then you want to kind of shift up to hard invitations. And over the course of that 7 to 10 days, and what we noticed is with the phone number game, it would take about 2 weekends before a girl would stop what she's doing to meet up with you. Then you start with the hard invitations. Start with the hard invitations. Hey, I would like to take you out. Hey, I'd love to hang out with you one-on-one. Hey, I just had my work cancelled today or this evening, or I had my parents couldn't make it for parents' night of the week. I really want to meet up with you. So when you start with the hard invitations, even as an unknown guy or a kind of a pickup guy, or you're trying to get into her life, if it's a hot girl, usually she's going to say maybe, or she's going to flake you, or she's going to say no, but that's when you apply the 4 times rule and you ask, 4 or 5 times for that meetup. Likely over the course of, a week or so or 2 weekends, she doesn't go for the meetup. And we're talking about 14 days in now. If she doesn't go for it, after you've had good back and forth, good banter, good Snapchat and Instagram, that's when you withdraw everything. That's when you can have this effect on the girl that you've cold approached. And this sounds kind of complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward to have fun fucking around with Snapchat, Instagram, and texting as you go, right? Fuck around with your emojis, have a good time. When you withdraw everything, stop snapping her, maybe, take her off your Instagram list or whatever, and stop texting altogether. And she's going to feel this abrupt effect that all of a sudden, a cool guy, confident guy who doesn't give a fuck, guy who's not creepy, guy who appreciates her and who is affectionate, all of a sudden, apparently is not interested anymore. Then all of a sudden, the dynamic changes. Instead of you chasing her as an unknown entity in her life, you're a known entity in her life. You're an emotional connection in her life that's just disbanded her, just rejected and moved on. And then she might start playing catch up with you. If she's single, if she's available, and you do that withdrawal effect and you do it strongly, you do it abruptly, then she's going to start to get really curious, and then she's going to take action to not lose something that she now has, okay? This works in all areas of life. Social media and texting and fucking around is really important for this. Other ways to remember to implement this well is don't text and Instagram and communicate to the girl, or Facebook with the girl, as though you're building up to some miraculous meeting. Just think that it's going to take, 7 to 10 days of bullshit before she can kind of change her schedule and before you start to have a meaningful place in her life. This also means that on the approach that you really don't want to be that attractive or that aggressive or that intentful on the approach. You want to show that you're capable of those things, but not forceful in those things onto the girl. So you can create a situation where you start hanging out with that girl a lot socially. Maybe her friends and your friends, you go to the same clubs frequently, you go to the same restaurants frequently, your friends meet her friends, whatever. And in those situations, you always meet, you always kind of hang out. You're chatting, but you're withholding your intent, so you're creating a healthy amount of time to build up almost a guy-girl friendship. And as that kind of builds up, as you spend time together in social circles, and you're not escalating and asking her to make a move, but maybe you've got physical rapport, maybe you're being friendly and chill, you want to start getting her to wonder, why a nice guy like yourself who does have that full range of emotions and does want great chicks in his life, you want the girl to start wondering, why the fuck is this guy not making more of a move? Does this guy not like me? I'm hot, I'm confident, every other fucking guy likes me. This guy's spending a lot of time with me, but he's not actually doing anything about it. So with a little bit more time and building up that situation where you're becoming something that she has or something that's prevalent in her life, then she starts to wonder about the value of it. The value of you means something. She will meet like dozens and dozens, hundreds of guys even, that are a dime a dozen, but it's not until you start having that valuable, the invaluable concepts of sentimentality, familiarity, time and history together that you start standing out. And that doesn't necessarily have to be like guy dating girl context or scenarios. It can be just hanging out, okay? Or you act completely aloof, that you don't know what you're doing, but do everything that you have to do, play as dumb as you have to play in order to get yourself into a situation where you can hang out with her again and build up that all-important familiarity in order to do that strong takeaway effect later on in the interaction. It's always the case, in my experience, that it's not until you get to know a girl and you actually decide that you're going to move on and try to really get other chicks, oftentimes chicks who are less hot than the chick that you're going for, it's not until you start moving on and pursuing other chicks that the chick actually wakes the fuck up, starts taking action, and starts thinking, shit, if I don't actually hook up with this guy, explore this intimacy, and spend more time with this guy, am I actually going to get this guy? Or not lose this great guy? And in the chick's mind, she's always going to be kind of catty and think that the other chick or chicks that you're going to go for are going to be way lesser than her. In fact, really hot girls, when they like a really quality guy, the traits that I mentioned earlier, they're more motivated to commit to that guy or teach that guy what a good girlfriend should be when a hot girl thinks that a guy is spending time with average chicks that are a waste of his time or below his interest level. What that means for you is that you need to date, spend time with, or be willing to spend time with, or explore interactions with girls that might not turn you on that much. It's good to spend time with chicks, be abundant, and practice your dating game. And you can learn something from everybody, and you can bring a lot out of a lot of girls, kind of bring them up to higher and better and more interesting levels with a good influence on them, or with anyone for that matter. But this contrast effect, this fear of loss effect, unfortunately, is probably the most motivating factor when it comes for girls to actually commit to guys. Alternately, from your point of view, the way that you approach girls, when you're approaching girls that you don't know from cold approach, you'll have zero familiarity, zero connection, zero ownership, or zero kind of investment in these people that you're meeting for the first time. That's the nature of cold approach. So you should think that because you don't know these people, that you will have a zero fear of loss, okay? Zero fear of loss, because you have nothing, you have no ownership of that interaction, or you have nothing that is yours to lose when you're meeting people for the first time. That should mean, when you think about it, that you're allowed to act openly. You can act like you don't care if they walk away, because they're not yours to begin with. You can't control these people to begin with. Only after you get to know a girl and form a relationship does the risk factor rise by you being, immature, stupid, aggressive, desperate, and express a fear of loss. I feel like when I'm approaching a person for the first time, I'm allowed to be as goofy as possible, or as immature as possible, or as loudmouth as possible, because I don't have any fear of loss of something that I don't yet have. Honestly though, however, once I do get into a relationship, the girl's fear of loss of somebody that she's getting to know intimately accelerates way faster than what a guy's does. So I continue to act goofy and kind of touch on her fear of loss, make her fear the loss, and then reassure her that I'm not going anywhere because I'm beginning to like her more and more. So that's a really cool arousal loop and reassurance loop once you actually get into the relationship. But it's funny that so many of you guys fear losing something that you never had. Therefore, start acting way more freely, because all you have is to gain, and the way that you gain new interactions is by being more expressive at a slower, consistent, less pressure on yourself kind of pace. So let's summarize all of this Philosophical Monday from this cool Texan-style bar, pool tables, whiskeys, and cups of coffee, cups of joe, right? Think clearly about a girl's point of view when she's meeting a lot of guys. If she sees 100 guys that she doesn't have any investment in, that she doesn't know, pick guys who are not hers, and girls are very maternal and empathetic and caring in that sense. It's really cool. Those 100 guys are going to be nowhere near as important to her as one interaction or relationship that she already has, right? So you need to turn your attention and your behaviors and your process to meeting chicks to create an impression or an investment or a connection and rapport and familiarity rather than attraction and acceleration and scoring action. By doing that, you actually make things a lot easier for yourself by being more low-key, playing a reapproaching type of game, letting the girl go again and again and again, because you're showing that you're not trying to control her as something that isn't yours to begin with. That way, you're going to create many more opportunities to meet her, get to know her, and connect, and then you can use that powerful takeaway effect if she's not interested in your initiatives to meet up and hang out and become more intimate. Again, it's so stupid. This is like a back-ended interaction, or that rejection is a part of the process, rather than simply you walk up, say, I like you, I'm attracted to you, she's attracted to you, and you go home. And that's why so many guys are so bad at meeting chicks, because they can't at all handle the idea that the takeaway or moving on or rejection is actually a part of the process. And everybody fails to realize that people are so much more motivated by not losing something they already have than gaining something that they don't, gaining something that they never had to begin with. So turn your attention in that direction, and your pickup game is going to be so much better, and you're going to start to understand in your own mind how you value things that you have and what gives you a lack of motivation for not chasing things that you don't.